You know this moment. The wheels slam the runway, the engines roar into reverse thrust, and your body leans hard into the seatbelt. Landing, the part of the flight your brain files under, finished. The statistics file it differently. The most frequent accident category in modern commercial aviation isn't an explosion, a stall, or a storm. It's the airplane leaving the runway, off the side, or off the end. It's called a runway excursion, number 1 on this list, and it accounted for roughly 21% of all accidents over the past decade, 104 of them by IATA's count. Most are survivable. The aircraft slides, stops, everyone walks away, and the story never reaches your feed. The Flight Safety Foundation puts the industry cost near $900 million a year. Money, not lives, until the airplane hits something that doesn't break. December 29th. 2024, Jeju Air Flight 2216, a Boeing 737-800, touches down on its belly at Muan, South Korea, overruns the runway, and strikes a concrete berm supporting the localizer antennas. 179 people die, 2 survive. Investigators confirmed a bird strike in both engines as the initiating event. The official cause is still undetermined. But in January 2026, a government-commissioned simulation reached a devastating conclusion. If that berm had been frangible, designed to break away, as international guidelines recommend, the people on board would have survived. That's this entire ranking in one story. What starts an accident and what makes it deadly are rarely the same thing. 12 categories, ranked by what actually happens. Category 2 is the opposite in every way, rare and ruthless. Loss of control in flight. The crew loses or never regains control of an aircraft that could still fly. Stalls, upsets, extreme attitudes. In Boeing's dataset of Western-built jets from 2014 to 2023, loss of control caused 706 of 1,078 onboard deaths, 65%, from a handful of accidents. June 1st, 2009. Air France 447 crosses the Atlantic at night when its pitot tubes ice over. The autopilot disconnects, the airspeed readings turn invalid, and the crew pulls the nose up, holding a flyable Airbus A330 in a stall all the way down to the ocean. 228 people die. A decade later, the 737 MAX inverted the failure. On Lion Air 610 and Ethiopian 302, automation reacting to a single faulty sensor pitched the aircraft down against their pilots. 346 dead. Loss of control by a machine, not a hand. The industry answered with upset prevention and recovery training, mandated across major jurisdictions from around 2019, and with flight envelope protection. Airbus data shows 4th-generation jets cut the fatal loss of control rate by roughly 91% compared to the generation before. And in 2025, for only the second time in history, IATA classified 0 accidents as loss of control in flight. Category 3. The machine itself breaks. Engines, structure, hydraulics, flight controls. In that same Boeing dataset, non-engine system failures were the second largest killer, with 157 onboard deaths. History's worst single aircraft accident sits here. Japan Airlines 1-2-3-1985. A faulty bulkhead repair fails 7 years after it was made. The 747 loses its vertical tail and 520 people die. 4 years later, United 232 showed this category's other face. An uncontained engine failure severed all 3 hydraulic systems, and the crew still steered a DC-10 to Sioux City using engine thrust alone. 185 of the 296 aboard survived. Then came November 4th, 2025. UPS Flight 2976, an MD-11 freighter, begins rotation at Louisville, and the left engine separates from the wing, pylon, and all. 15 people die, 3 crew and 12 on the ground, including a 3-year-old girl and her grandfather. The NTSB documented fatigue cracks in the pylon mount and drew its own comparison to American Airlines 191 in 1979. Its hearing in May 2026 revealed roughly 10 prior failures of that bearing between 2002 and 2022. Only 4 formally reported to the FAA. The investigation remains open. What is already closed is the fleet. UPS retired its MD-11s in January 2026. Category 4 is the one nobody makes documentaries about. tail strikes, landing gear collapses, ground vehicles hitting parked aircraft. For 2 years running, 2024 and 2025, these, together with runway excursions, were the most frequent accident types in commercial aviation, per IATA. You've never seen most of them on the news, because almost nobody gets hurt. A tail scrapes the pavement on rotation, a gear leg folds, a belt loader punches a hole in a $100 million fuselage. The repair bills are staggering. The funerals, mercifully, are almost zero. Hold on to this one, because it reframes the whole list. The most common plane crash on Earth is one you have never heard of. The defense is just as unglamorous. A dawn walk-around, one agent, one flashlight, one dent caught before pushback. Every find like that is an accident that never becomes a statistic. The next category used to be the deadliest of them all. Category 5. Controlled flight into terrain. A perfectly flyable aircraft flown unknowingly into a mountain, a hillside, the ground, usually in cloud, usually at night. Through the 80s and 90s, this was aviation's #1 killer. December 20th, 1995. American Airlines 965 descends toward Cali, Colombia at night. A waypoint confusion in the flight computer turns the aircraft toward high terrain, and the 757 strikes a mountain the crew never saw. 159 dead. 4 survivors. Cali became the turning point. Don Bateman's ground proximity warning system evolved into EGPWS, GPS position matched against a terrain database, mandated around the world. The mountain didn't move. The map moved into the cockpit. The result is the biggest win in aviation safety history. Airbus data shows the fatal CFIT rate fell roughly 89% between 1999 and 2019. In 2024, commercial jets recorded 0 CFIT accidents. In 2025, IATA classified none. The category that once led every ranking is now, in many years, an empty row on the table. Category 6. 2 aircraft in the same sky at the same moment. Mid-air collisions are among the rarest events in aviation and among the most lethal, the deadliest. Charkhi Dadri over India in 1996 killed 349 people. 4 years, the category looked almost extinct. Then, January 29th, 2025, a U.S. Army Black Hawk collides with a PSA Airlines CRJ-700 on final approach over the Potomac River, short of Washington's runway 33. 67 people die. Preliminary findings put the helicopter around 278 feet above the 200-foot ceiling of its published route. The investigation continues. The FAA has already restricted that helicopter corridor. The defense against this category was born from another tragedy. Überlingen, 2002. A controller and an automated system issued opposite instructions, 2 crews split the difference, and 71 people died, many of them school children. The rule that followed is absolute. When TCAS speaks, TCAS wins. Its resolution advisories now formally override air traffic control. Categories 7 and 8 are the ones you have probably lived through. Turbulence, under ICAO's classification, is the most frequent occurrence category in the sky, and it injures far more people than it kills. In May 2024, Singapore Airlines 321 hit severe turbulence over Myanmar. 1 passenger died of a cardiac arrest. Dozens were injured, many of them out of their seatbelts. And bird strikes, tens of thousands every year in the FAA's database alone, almost never fatal on their own. One private compilation attributes around 804 deaths to wildlife strikes across all of aviation history. What a bird can do is start a chain. In 2009, Canada Geese took out both engines of US Airways 1549, and the crew put an A320 on the Hudson River. All 155 lived. 15 years later, a bird strike opened the chain at Muon, and the infrastructure closed it. South Korea has since ordered bird detection cameras and thermal radar at every airport, starting in 2026. Category 9 is fire. Rare as a starting point, brutal when it happens. Swissair 111, 1998. Heat from entertainment system wiring ignites above the cockpit, and 229 people die off Nova Scotia. ValueJet 592, 1996. Mislabeled oxygen generators ignite in the cargo hold. 110 dead. The modern front line is in your pocket. Billions of lithium battery devices fly every year, and cargo fire protection is now a stated IATA priority. Category 10 has been engineered nearly out of existence. Fuel. In 1978, United 173 circled Portland while its crew troubleshot a landing gear light until the tanks ran dry. 10 died, and the accident became a founding case for crew resource management. Avianca 52 ran out of fuel holding for New York in 1990. 73 died. And the Gimli glider, 1983, a metric to imperial conversion error, left an Air Canada 767 with half the fuel it needed, and every single person survived the engineless landing that followed. Reserve fuel rules and modern fuel prediction have turned this category into a museum piece. Category 11 is rare enough that decades pass between major cases, and it still owns the deadliest accident in history, Runway Excursion, something on the runway that shouldn't be there. March 27, 1977, Tenerife. In thick fog, a KLM 747 begins its takeoff roll without clearance, while a Pan Am 747 is still taxiing on the same runway. 583 people die. In January 2024, the category returned at Haneda, where a Japan Airlines A350 struck a Coast Guard aircraft on landing. All 379 aboard the Airbus evacuated alive. 5 died on the smaller plane. Tenerife's deepest legacy isn't on this list at all. Human factors don't have a category because they run through almost every category. Tenerife and United 173 pushed NASA to the 1979 workshop that coined cockpit resource management. United flew the first airline program in 1981. The FAA made the training mandatory in a rule issued in December 1995. It rewired how crews speak, question, and cross-check each other. The work isn't finished. IATA's 2024 analysis found abrupt manual control inputs and continued unstable approaches, each present in 26% of accidents. Weather runs through the list the same way. 3 microburst crashes, Eastern 66, Pan Am 759, Delta 191, killed over 400 people in a single decade and gave airports Doppler radar and jets their wind shear warning systems. Factors, not categories. Threads, not chapters. The last category on the official list is the one that shouldn't exist, undetermined. Accidents that never receive a confirmed cause, often because the investigation was never completed or never published. Only 63% of accident reports from 2019 to 2023 met the deadlines of the Chicago Convention. And as of mid-2026, the deadliest accident of 2025 still has no official cause. Air India 171 A787 crashed moments after liftoff from Ahmedabad in June of last year. 241 people died on board, 19 more on the ground. One passenger in seat 11A survived. The preliminary report documented both fuel control switches moving to cut off seconds after takeoff. The final report is still awaited. Nothing more can honestly be said. Beyond the list sits a class of causes the safety statistics deliberately exclude, the deliberate ones. Boeing's and IATA's accident data count neither sabotage nor acts of war. Lockerbie, 1988, 270 dead. Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 shot down over Ukraine in 2014, 298. Germanwings 9525, 2015, 150, the case that prompted 2-person cockpit rules and mental health reform. And the newest entry doesn't destroy aircraft, it blinds them. GPS jamming reports rose 67% in 2025 compared to 2023. Spoofing reports rose 193%. Back to that runway in Muon. 38.7 million flights operated in 2025. 51 became accidents, just 2 of them. Air India 171 and the Potomac collision accounted for over 77% of everyone who died aboard an airliner that year. That is the paradox of modern aviation. The categories on this list have been beaten back one by one until what remains is rare, singular, and decided by details. A berm that doesn't break, a bearing nobody reported, a helicopter 78 feet too high. The machine was the killer, then the cockpit, then the mountain. The next chapter is being written on the ground and in the signals above it. Which category surprised you the most? Tell me in the comments. Give your like and subscribe to the channel for more.